Welcome to the College Basketball Net Profit Show, Thursday, February 9th. Ian Cameron and Conor Mack. We're ready to break down the Thursday slate. As usual on a Thursday, we've only got a couple Big Ten, Pac-12 games, and really other than that, it is a mid-major dominated Thursday. And we've got a lot of mid-major games, more than we usually on the marquee games. To the first segment of the show, we stick to the power conference games, but there were so few power conference games, we threw some of the better, bigger mid-major games on the show today. So we've got them to break down as well. We've got some good ones in the mid-major ranks. And we will start with a little smaller conference game in the Sun Belt. It's James Madison and Georgia Southern. We have James Madison 4-point road favorites, 138.5 the total in this basketball game. James Madison, a very impressive offensive team, having a really good season overall at 17-8. They had a little bit of a swoon there at the beginning of this calendar year, early January, but they've really righted the ship. 6-1 straight up since that little skid. The only loss coming to ULM. They played some really good basketball here in conference play. They beat Georgia Southern 83-71 last month. And so, yeah, Georgia Southern's in revenge here, but Georgia Southern's not playing very good basketball. 6 of their last 7 they have lost. They've only covered twice during that span. James Madison's offense should be able to have some success here in this game. Georgia Southern, they do struggle a little bit at the offensive end of the floor, and in particular, the three-point range shooting has been just awful for the Georgia Southern Eagles. And so I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up here with this James Madison team. -4, I definitely look toward the road favorite here. A small bet for me on James Madison. Total, I think James Madison will score. It's a question of what Georgia Southern will do. I think because they're at home, I think they'll play a little bit better offensively than maybe they did in the first meeting. So with that in mind, I'll lean slightly over the total here, 138.5. But I like the side more, JMU. I've been riding that team. I'm going to go back to the well. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, total-wise, I'd go the other way. I look at the under in this game, just because you mentioned Georgia Southern struggled to score. They can't shoot it. They are better at home, that's for sure. And sidewise, I look at James Madison. Some of their closer games this year have been obviously on the road, and there's not a ton. Lately, these last 2, they've been solid. Won by more than 4.5. Maybe look at them first half, but to me, yeah, it's JMU here, and I lean under.
All right, Iowa, Purdue, Big Ten. We've got Purdue 7.5, 8-point home favorites, 149 the total in this one. Purdue ought to be bringing their A game tonight, you would think, after a rare loss, their second loss of the season only against Indiana this past weekend. I think it's a good get right back, bounce back spot for Purdue. It's an Iowa team we've talked about on the road. I don't trust this group at all, really. They've gone back to their old ways, old habit where they're scoring points, but they're giving up a lot of points as well. It's not going to bode well. And the thing that bothers me too for Hawaii is they have no size in and around the paint, in and around the rim. And you got to try to handle Zach Edey tonight. Good luck with that if you're Iowa, for a team that's not overly that good defensively to begin with. Now they're going to probably have definitely a size disadvantage going up there against Edey tonight. Edey played well against Indiana, even though they lost. It's the amazing thing about him is he plays well even when Purdue doesn't play well. And they lose the game, and he still gives you like 30 points and double-digit rebounds. But I think tonight he has a big size advantage. Iowa's running into an angry Purdue bunch. I think Purdue runs away with this one. It's a lay the point spot for me here on Purdue. I like the over as well, 149.5. He's going to score at will around the rim. He gets that ball right around the rim tonight. He's going to score probably 9 times out of 10. Nobody's going to put up any resistance. So Iowa just doesn't have that kind of defensive presence in the paint area to deal with him. So I like Purdue here. I also like this game over the total. What do you think here, Conor? Iowa, Purdue.
Yeah, I mean, it is 8, but I'm with you here. I lay it with Purdue. I think this is a good game and bounce back. And a team that I haven't bet much, and it hasn't been that great against the number. And Iowa, flip side, has played well, but that's at home, and that's where I want them. This team just not good on the road. You mentioned it. I worry about them scoring and shooting it, but I think Purdue's defense is where they really clamp here. Like have a big game, force the turnovers against Iowa, and get out and have a 10-point win. So, yeah, this one's got me thinking. I don't love laying 8, but I think it's a good spot here with Purdue.
All right, next up, we've got Marshall and Coastal Carolina as we go back to the Sun Belt here. A lot of good Sun Belt action actually tonight. Marshall, 8-point road favorites, 154 the total in this game. Marshall's been absolutely unbeatable at home. They've been a little bit more human though on the road. 6-4 straight up, just 5-5 against the spread as well away from home. You look at see if they can continue that here. They beat Coastal 81-66 last month at Marshall. We know what this team is going to do. They're going to push the tempo. They're a very fast-paced team. They haven't been exactly shooting the ball well the last couple of games. App State, 66 points. Lafayette in their last game, they lost 77-67. Didn't have a great offensive game by any stretch. Coastal Carolina is off 5 consecutive losses, so it's been a rough go for the Chanticleers. But a lot of these games have been competitive when you look at it. You know, the loss against Chicago State, the loss against James Madison, they only lost by 6, a 1-point loss against Old Dominion. Last two were a little bit more rougher for Coastal Carolina. I think it's kind of a decent bounce back spot for them. I think it's a lot of points to be laying with Marshall here away from home. I think the key matchup here for Coastal Carolina going into this game, and it's something that I think you're going to be happy about, is their field goal percentage defense overall in the year is 79th, pretty solid, and that's good when you're going up against a Marshall team that can score the basketball. So I actually think the home dog might be worth a look here with Coastal getting the 8.5 points. What do you think here, Connor?
That's how I felt. This one was the back and forth for me. Marshall's been very good, but you mentioned it at home. On the road, pretty good on the road too, and taking care of teams. The one spot for the most part for Coastal has been good is at home. Like you mentioned, this team at home with these points, they seem to score a little bit better. Obviously, Marshall can fill up the bucket pretty easy. 17 in the country, 81 points per game. The defense has been all right. So yeah, this was the back and forth. If I had to free bet, I'd take Coastal. In the end, I didn't get there, but I'd take these points if I had to.
All right, we go move along to, and this is a good matchup here, Conference USA, UAB and North Texas. We've got North Texas 2.5-point home favorites, 128 the total in this game. You got to believe this is a triple circled spot on the calendar on the schedule for the Blazers. They lost at home to North Texas last month, a game when Jelly Walker was missing. He's now back. This will be, I think, a second or third game back from that injury. UAB has obviously won each game since he's returned. They're catching points, and this is another one of those classic situations. The home favorite lost the first meeting outright. Now they're a road underdog catching points in the rematch in revenge. And again, I've talked about that angle endlessly on this show. That says bet UAB here in this game, and I did. I took UAB +3, and I actually got 3.5. It went down to 3, and there's not even any 3.5s or 3s left anymore. It's pretty much down to 2.5. So clearly, the betting markets are seeing what I'm seeing. A good UAB team looking for redemption. Hey, it's not easy to beat North Texas. They are an excellent defensive team, and they could make life difficult on a very, very good UAB offense. But at the end of the day, the road team has dominated this series. If you look at last year, North Texas won in Birmingham, and Birmingham returned the favor, winning in Denton here in North Texas. So the road team has played well in this series. I think that continues here. UAB has Jelly Walker this time, unlike the first meeting. I think that makes a difference. I think they got a great chance to win this game, but taking the 2.5, 3 worth it as well, especially when you consider this probably will be a very tight, very competitive game. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, I couldn't get away from the dog against the numbers. Been so good. The road team, the last 8-0, the revenge. And Walker not playing that first game. And I think that was one of their first games without him. I mean, and they struggled, especially a team like North Texas. You're going to struggle to score. He still hasn't found it. I think this game, like you talked, is circled here for UAB. I even think 2.5. They're in this one. Close games. You mentioned the last couple they've traded really tight. But before that, UAB's owned them. I think this game's tight. So I want the points here in this one.
Yeah, this should be a good one. I'm looking forward to
seeing
it.
We'll see if Walker can shoot better, too.
Yeah.
Like, I think he had 14 last game, but he was still 5 for 13. Yeah. I don't know if he's 100, but he should be feeling a little bit better. He was off for a while and kind of slow to go these last couple of games, but I think he'll be up for this one.
Yeah, definitely. I think definitely the whole team will. And you got to understand too, there's a pretty serious injury he had. Maybe it takes a game or two to get that rhythm back, get that shooting stroke back. Wouldn't surprise me to see him play well. The good players elevate in the big games, and this is a big one in the conference here, especially for UAB. They don't want to go 0-2 versus North Texas. So both of us liking the dog here in this one. All right, Middle Tennessee State, Western Kentucky. We're staying in the Conference USA here. Western Kentucky 1.5-point home favorites, 142 the total in this one. Western Kentucky is I don't think nearly as good as we've seen them be in the past. They're a 13-11 team. Middle Tennessee, on the other hand, 15-9 coming into this game. They've won. They've been on a nice run here, 6-2 straight up in ATS their last 8 games. They won back-to-back home games against UTEP and UTSA. We'll see if they can bring that magic with them on the road, though, which has been a little bit more difficult. They lost to Florida Atlantic and Florida International in each of their last 2 road games. Western Kentucky's off home wins against UTEP and UTSA in their last 2 games. You look at the series history with these 2 teams. Middle Tennessee's actually been pretty tough on this Western Kentucky group. They've won 3 straight, and they've covered 3 straight against Western Kentucky, including earlier this year, New Year's Eve. It was a 65-60 win for Middle Tennessee. I don't have a strong feel on the side, but I do like the over in this game. Middle Tennessee's offense has really opened up. They've scored 74 plus in 3 straight games. 4 straight games have gone over. Western Kentucky's been trending that way as well, 5-1 to the over in their last 6 games. The defensive numbers for both teams are middling. Middle Tennessee's actually still got pretty good defensive numbers, but they've not been as good lately. And in conference play, the defensive efficiency drops.
Or on the road.
These 2 teams, and on the road especially. That's a great point too, Connor, because you look at the overall defensive numbers, not bad. You go on the road, and all of a sudden points per game, 8 points per game more. Field goal percentage allowed, 4 field goal percentage points more allowed. The 3-point shooting defense goes from 33.9 overall to a pretty porous 39.2 3-point shooting percentage allowed on the road by Middle Tennessee. So I think all of those factors point to over, and the total's not astronomical sitting here at 142. What do you think here, Conor?
Yeah, I'll be quick. I do. I think it can get over the number in this one. I do think it's kind of a coin flip, but Western Kentucky at home, I think they can get it done. I don't think I'm going to get to the window in this game at all, but that's where I'd look.
142 is what I bet with this over. I'm just seeing it now. It's actually at 143.5, 144. So there's been some other people thinking that this over is worth a look. It is going up. No question about that. All right, Northwestern, Ohio State, Big Ten. We've got Ohio State 5-point home favorites, 136 the total. I mean, neither of these teams is playing really well right now, but it's even worse for Ohio State. I mean, I think if you're going to go with anybody here, you have to take the points because at least with Northwestern, they're coming off a road win against Wisconsin after 2 straight losses. I mean, Ohio State's just an abomination right now. I mean, they're 1-9 straight up, 1-9 against the spread in their last 10 games. They're not even beating good teams. They're not even beating mediocre teams at home. They lost to Wisconsin as favorites at home. They lost to Minnesota as favorites at home. I mean, the only win they have in their last 10 games was a home win against Iowa, 93-77. But, they have been absolutely awful of late. The defense has crumbled. The offense has scored just 69 or fewer in 3 of the last 4 games. I'm not saying Northwestern's a great team by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely Ohio State is not a team at all I'm laying points with right now. So if you got to bet it, you look Northwestern or you don't look at anything as far as I'm concerned. What do you think here, Conor?
Yeah, this game's just ugly. I really don't want anything to do with it. I could see Ohio State winning, though, maybe. But there's just nothing that recency that I want to back them at all. They've kind of beat up Northwestern. I remember this game they played earlier. Northwestern couldn't have shot at home, and Ohio State just pounded them early. I think they won by 16 in that game. I think if the shots go, it could get over, but Big Ten game, I don't love it. And yeah, I don't want to lay points with Ohio State, but I'm really not rushing to Northwestern, that's for sure. So I'm off.
All right. And now we go back to the Sun Belt, and this is another great game here coming up. It's the UL Lafayette, Louisiana Raging Cajuns against Southern Miss. Southern Miss 2.5-point home favorites, 147 being the total in this game. I backed Southern Miss quite a bit this year. They have been very good to me. And especially early in the season, I for some reason I haven't been betting them as much because they did cool off against the number. October and November and December, they were covering every point spread. Then late December, early January, they were starting to flounder a little bit against the number. They failed to cover, I think, in 4 or 5 straight. Well, in their last 6 games, they're right back on the 7 games. They're back on the beam again, 6-1 against the spread. Their last 7-game win streak coming into this game. They're undefeated on the home court here in Hattiesburg. And look, UL Lafayette's a hell of a basketball team too. They're on a double-digit win streak coming into this game. I think the difference is the home court. I think the difference is USM or Southern Miss looking to avenge a 75-61 loss to UL Lafayette earlier this season. And another difference maker, I think, could be free throw shooting. A little bit better for Southern Miss. Very good offensive team. ULL a little bit worse defensively than Southern Miss.
Yeah.
And here we go again with the skewed numbers, Connor. Talk about differences from road to home defensively. The numbers defensively for ULL, they all get much worse away from home. And now you're taking on a Southern Miss team that's been absolutely terrific here on their home floor. So the numbers moved slightly, but it's still close enough in that pick 'em range where I like the Golden Eagles at home. I've really been kicking myself for not backing them at the last few times I've had the opportunity. I think tonight they get the job done at home. It's about a -140 price on the money line. I like Southern Miss here, Connor, and I like the over a little bit too, 147. You're both teams are going to push the basketball. Sometimes their efficiency can go back and forth, but certainly the pace is going to be there. It's going to be an over pace. It's just going to be a question of whether these teams are going to make enough shots and be efficient enough. What do you think here, Connor? One of the games of the night, certainly in the Sun Belt, ULL Southern Miss.
Yeah, I'm going to stay off the total in this game. I think Louisiana is the better offensive team, obviously, and I'm worried they shoot it really well. The 40% from 3 has just been good all year. But like you mentioned, obviously these teams not that great on the road. I like Southern Miss defense. And this is one game we talked kind of a bit today with Jimmy. If I'm going to back them, because I went back and forth, I think the first half. And I'm going to roll with it, Southern Miss. I worry full game here, but I think first half they're ready to roll. If you're going to make it at that place, should be packed in a game like this. Both these teams, what are they? 20-4, 21-4. They've both won over 10 in a row. I'm gonna take them early here, so I like first half a little bit better. All they got to do is just win by 1. You win.
All right, liking them early in this game for Conor. All right, we move on to San Francisco and Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference. Gonzaga 14-point home favorites, 155 the total. Doesn't it seem like this number is factoring in the bounce back spot for Gonzaga? We know Gonzaga lost against St. Mary's, and it was a bad loss. They were leading, more than halfway through that game, and they just went ice cold. Gonzaga in the last 8 or 9 minutes. St. Mary's bounced the comeback, forces overtime, and then it was pretty much all St. Mary's in overtime. It was a really horrid loss for Gonzaga because they felt like they had that game in control and they could not close the deal. Certainly they're going to be upset. They're going to want to bounce back and win here, but they got to win by a big margin. And San Francisco is not chopped liver. San Francisco almost beat St. Mary's just recently on the road. They've shown they can hang tough, on the road against, some of the superior teams in this conference. And with Gonzaga's continuous issues, not being able to defend for 40 minutes consistently start to finish, I'm not in a rush to lay 14. I don't give 2 shits that it's a bounce back spot for the Gonzaga Bulldogs. If anything, I'd look at the Dons here in this one. There should be points. It's a question of, do you want to go over a total in the 155 range? Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it goes over, probably a little bit, or it can just stay under. They played them well, kind of over the years. Not always cover, but I think the game plans have been pretty good against Gonzaga. And this year, I just don't trust their defense. I mean, Gonzaga, after that tough game, it went to OT. They were dogs, and they might bounce back here at home. I just think it's too many. I think San Francisco will hang around. They shoot the 3 pretty good as long as they're not bad. And that's the thing. I think they could score because Gonzaga's defense. when you're not that good, I think that leaves it open here. So I got to take the points.
Yeah, no doubt. Estrada hasn't been shooting the ball as well, I find lately. A lot of their offense, if Timmy gets shut down, all of a sudden we're not getting that same punch from the rest of the group for Gonzaga. Meanwhile, with San Francisco, they fell flat against Santa Clara. Kind of predictable after they gave it their all against St. Mary's and fell short. But don't sleep on some of their good players like Meeks, and don't sleep on Khalil Shabazz and Tyrell Roberts. These are good players here, can shoot the ball and really get going offensively for San Francisco. So keep an eye on that. I think it is a few too many points as well. Yeah, I agree with Clark, though. If you're going to look at San Francisco or Gonzaga here, first half might be the best way to go. All right, St. Mary's and Loyola Marymount. So now we got the flip side. Gonzaga looking to bounce back. Is this a letdown now for St. Mary's after the massive win against Gonzaga? They go to Loyola Marymount, laying 7.5 on the road, 127.5 the total in this one. Yeah, certainly I'm definitely intrigued by taking the points with Loyola Marymount. If there's ever a spot to fade St. Mary's, this might be it. But boy, they're just so all over the map, Loyola Marymount. I mean, their best game is good enough, to nearly beat Gonzaga like they did. Actually, they did beat Gonzaga earlier this year in Gonzaga. And they've also had these games where they lose to San Diego, really, in their last game. I mean, head scratcher. And the defense in the last two games, non-existent for the Lions. 87 and 89 points allowed in the last two games. That's a problem. St. Mary's, the one thing they are is, that while they're great defensively and they play slow, they're very efficient offensively. And they've got multiple guys that can shoot it with Dukas and with Bowen and the greatness of Aiden Mahaney. If you ever watch a St. Mary's game, man, that kid can play. And Loyola Marymount's played no defense the last two games. So I truly am worried about that. It feels like I want to back Loyola Marymount, and I still might. I want to take the points here, but their defense does bother me. It concerns me big time going into this game. I lean Loyola Marymount. It's not a spot I'm looking to take Mary's. Maybe this total can sneak over. I mean, I get it with St. Mary's, right? We're talking 127.5, and it's that low because of their defense, and they slow the game down to a crawl. But, man, if they are even relatively efficient, and maybe after the big Gonzaga win, maybe their defense sags just a little bit. They don't quite have it locked in on the defensive end like we usually see with them. Then maybe we can get over this number. I'm intrigued by the over with the number being this low. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, Loyola on the road, defense garnership. I think their center was out, Isania. I think he's big because they don't have a ton of big guys, and he missed the last two games.
Yep.
No rim protection. I think he's questionable. I want him in to back Loyola because they are back at home where they've played their best basketball for sure. And this piqued my interest right away last night at 8. But with him being out, it's just been shredded. 89, 87 BYU with San Diego. It was not good. I think, they'll be up for it at home, but I think he's got to be in to back this. And St. Mary's, not played a ton on the road, but I think they've been pretty good for the most part on the road and covered some numbers. And they beat up Loyola earlier, I think, by 16. It was easy, obviously, at home. The St. Mary's team, good. Like you mentioned, they're efficient. I don't want to lay the points. I just got to wait if he's in to Loyola, so I'm off for now.
All right, we go to the Pac-12 next up. Arizona State and Stanford. Stanford 3-point home favorites, 138 the total in this game. I kind of wanted to back Stanford at home, playing a little bit better. Arizona State's doing what they usually do at this time of year. They suck the later the season goes on. It's the same old shit with Bobby Hurley and his team. I mean, they just get worse and worse and worse as the season goes on. I don't want anything to do with Arizona State, but now you got to lay 3. I mean, it's getting up there a little bit. Money line and pick 'em. I'm interested in Stanford. I still lean to Stanford, but the markets have moved a sufficient amount, and it's not like Stanford is, tremendously strong at home on a consistent level. So I'm probably going to end up passing now with the move on Stanford. I just don't want now. I don't want to lay 2.5 now in case it's like a 1 or 2 point game. And there's no way I'm laying a money line in the -150 range now on Stanford. So it's a pass for me. And I just don't want Arizona State. They're floundering as they usually do this time of year. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, and on the road, this total I do lean under here a little bit looking at it. Stanford, after they shot the lights out, after all those wins at home, that great game against Utah, lose at Colorado, kind of get their ass whipped, but at least they split that back at home. I think it's them or pass. You just mentioned it, though. It's stretched out to 3 here about. It's just if you want to lay that. I think, lean their way and lean under, but I don't think I'll be involved.
All right, BYU and Pepperdine. Next up, BYU 7.5, 8-point road favorites, so 152.5 the total in this. The betting markets are onto the total that I like. I like over the total. I think we'll see points here in this one. Pepperdine's going to push the pace quite a bit, but at the same time, defensively, Pepperdine woeful, and that's putting it mildly during this brutal stretch. They're 1-9 in their last 10 games. Look at the points given up: 89, 80, 92, 91, 91, 87, 84, 81, 93. They're just consistently giving up 80s and 90s. It's that bad with this Pepperdine defense as of late. 357 now they've fallen to in the country. 357th in terms of points per game allowed. 80.2 points per game. Awful. So BYU should be able to score at will. It's probably what's going to keep me off taking Pepperdine. Because I don't love the idea of laying points on the road of this size with BYU, but they might be able to do anything they want. BYU's kind of trended over 4 of the last 6 have gone over the total. BYU Pepperdine earlier this season at BYU, it was 91-81. It got into the 170s. I mean, all we need is this game to get into the high 150s. I couldn't believe it when I saw 149.5 when this total first came out overnight. I'm like, what?
I was shocked too. I saw the one. I'm like that. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it with this Pepperdine team that's where the total was when it opened. 140s when you got a team that's given up 80 and 90, it seems, every single game. So I still love it at the current number. It hasn't gone up enough, in my opinion. So over here for me. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, so grit and grind. Yeah, you go get BYU team total. I still, with 152.5, wherever it is, even 153, I think you can get over. I mean, I wouldn't be jumping on the under. Because Pepperdine's just that bad. You got to think, what was this game a few weeks ago? 91-81?
10-point win for BYU at home, and Pepperdine actually covered. Pepperdine's covered 5 in a row, Connor, against BYU, and BYU plays Gonzaga on Saturday. So there is some tricky situationals here for the Cougars.
Yes, they do play them well. And one thing, though, with Pepperdine, which I lean their way, too, as bad as they are defensively, this team can score and they can shoot it all right. They can hit threes and they're going to take them. So, not the greatest free throw shooting team, both teams 70%, but I just see points and just kind of a run up and just back and forth. So I'd lean the dog. I just don't love how bad they are defensively, but I'd lean Pepperdine. I wish we were getting some more here. Close to 9, 10. I'd be on it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No, they got some guys that can shoot the ball. Maxwell Lewis, good scorer. Yeah. Houston Millette, Javon Porter. I mean, they got some guys offensively that can stroke it, the waves. It's just they can't defend a lick. That's their problem. This does set up well. This really does set up well for Pepperdine. I might give a second look at Pepperdine. We'll see. Because this doesn't set up any better for them than this. They're in revenge. It's not like they were embarrassed by BYU in Provo. It was a 10-point game, and they actually covered because they were getting 10.5, 11. Now they're getting 7.5. BYU's got to go to Gonzaga after this for a huge game against the Bulldogs. It does set up well for Pepperdine situationally, but we're gonna have to, if they're gonna cover, they're gonna have to score.
Yeah, there's a few 8s out there
defensively. Yep.
Too. So yeah.
Shop around. Yeah, if you like Pepperdine, see if you can find an 8. On them here. There are a couple that are still out there. All right. That's the old theme song of that soap opera from the 80s and 90s, Santa Barbara. Good timing for it. Santa Barbara here against Long Beach State. Yeah, it's a good. That's what happens when you're growing up in a household where parents watch soap operas all day, but that's another story. Santa Barbara and Long Beach State. Santa Barbara 1-point road favorites, 144 the total in this game. Great matchup here in the Big West. These are 2 of the heavyweights I would say for the better part of the last 10 or 15 years. For most of those years, Santa Barbara's always been one of the best teams in this conference. And many of these years, Long Beach has been very good in this conference. So this should be a pretty good matchup. Long Beach has taken a while to get going. Santa Barbara's been terrific all year, but Long Beach has really started to fire up strong here. 6-game win streak entering this game. Santa Barbara's played great, but they had an inexplicable hiccup in their last game against CS Northridge. 13-point road favorites. They lost outright, 72-67 in that game. We'll have to see here how they bounce back. Santa Barbara is a defensive-minded, half-court, slow-it-down type of team, but they've actually trended over in 4 straight. Long Beach is going to play with some pace here coming into this matchup to maybe look over, but at the same time, they've priced this total up closer to a Long Beach pace rather than a Santa Barbara pace at 144. So I was hoping for a little bit of a better number, and you look at the series history since the beginning of last year, 2 of the 3 meetings would have gone under this total. So I'm kind of pumping the brakes when it comes to the over. I think I like Long Beach here. I know it's a bounce back for Santa Barbara, but going on the road again, Long Beach is in revenge, I believe. No, actually, they haven't played each other yet this year. But if you look at the meetings since 2021, Connor, home team has won and covered each game pretty much. Actually, Long Beach has covered 3 of the last 4, but Long Beach has won and covered each of the last 2 times they've hosted Santa Barbara. So, and they're a slight home underdog now. I think if I were to play it, I'd look at Long Beach here +1. What do you think, Connor?
I know. You know what? I wish Santa Barbara wasn't off that horrible performance and lost. I'd be all over Long Beach. The beach is
one
here.
Little concern. Yeah, exactly. That they just got, that's a wake-up call, a slap in the face. If you see how I did that, slap in the face, and they bounce back. They play a lot better now. But they're running into a red-hot Long Beach team, getting a point at home. They've won 6 in a row, and they've won each of the last 2 times they've hosted Santa Barbara. So that's why I'm on the beach here.
Yeah, I know. I lean their way too. I thought the total was too high too. I thought this, because we get high 120s with Santa Barbara. You talked about how slow they are, and Long Beach much more. I thought this be like 139. So this is tough to just be on the over. But if you do kind of like Long Beach, you think it maybe could get over. That's why I'm not just all over this under, even though that's where I'd lean a little bit, just because Santa Barbara is so slow. This team's still 18-4, and I can't believe they lost to Northridge that last game, a team that can't score at all. So I'm with you here. This is the late night special. I'm going to wait. I don't know if I get on the beaches or not, but I always like them at home.
All right, we got USC and Oregon now in the Pac-12. I'm pretty sure this is going to be the game that Bill Walton's calling tonight with his buddy Dave Pasch. Those two are a fucking riot together. Pasch is always trying to get Walton to shut up and focus on the game. And actually, the dynamic with the two of them is always pretty funny. It's just Pasch is at the point now where he's like, I know what he's like, and I'm just going to try to just mock him every chance I get.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah, he just rolls with it. Yeah, Oregon 4.5-point home favorites, 142.5 the total in this game. Like I said, it's probably your Dave Pasch, Bill Walton Thursday night Pac-12 special. If I had to guess, this should be a good game. I like Oregon here, but I like Oregon more on Saturday against UCLA, and I'm keeping it small on them. Like I like the way they're playing at home lately. They trounced Arizona, remember, at home. They've had some nice performances here on this home court. USC on the road's been a little spotty. I think it's a tough game because the USC, I think, is playing really well at the moment as well. But and Oregon does play UCLA, but I don't think they look past USC. USC's a really good team as well in this conference. I think you get Oregon's focus, but what I'm going to do is I hope Oregon wins and covers tonight, and I think they're capable of it. Will Richardson's playing a lot better. That team goes when Will Richardson goes, and he's playing well again for Oregon right now. I think they can win and cover here tonight. And even if they don't, let's say USC beats them tonight or covers and maybe even wins outright on the road, I think it's going to set up an even stronger bet, an even better bet on Oregon Saturday when they're hosting UCLA. Because I think that's the game where really you're going to get them firing on all cylinders, and they're going to be a home underdog. They're going to be catching points. It seems like the better the opponent, especially at home, the better Oregon plays. Remember, they drilled Arizona at home. Don't forget that. They can hang with some of these better teams. So I like Oregon tonight, but if by chance they lose, I'm going to come right back to Oregon, and I won't be on the Pub Hub Saturday. So that's another reason I'm saying this now. I'll be on Oregon as a home dog Saturday against UCLA, and it'll be a strong play for me if they lose tonight. That's the way I'm going about it. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, I got to look more into this. It looks like Morgan's out. A couple of role players for SC out for sure.
Yep.
Dixon Waters is questionable. I don't like that. I mean, I like how SC's been playing, but now they go hit the road here. This is just not the best spot for them. They've won an over team too, and I was on a ton of their unders early on. I haven't really touched a total of theirs, and they've been going over at home, but now on the road, just don't trust Oregon. I know they're at home. I just don't want to lay 4.5. This seems like a good spot for them. They're playing better basketball. They still can't shoot free throws. They shoot 31% from three. The best thing is they're at home, and they're turning it around from what they played early on. I got to put that out of my head. But, yeah, so I'm going to be off here. This is one I think in the end I'm just gonna watch, listen to Bill Walton, bullshit.
I hate to disappoint you. I'm just reading it now. He's not on the call tonight. It's not Passion.
Oh, he's not?
It's another crew tonight. They're actually doing UCLA Oregon on Saturday, but they're not doing this one. So there you go. So they got that game on Saturday, Passion Walton, UCLA and Oregon, but they're not on the call tonight. It's Roxy Rolla, Roxy Bernstein, and someone else. But there you go. All right, next up, we've got final game of the marquee games, Arizona and California. Arizona 19-point road favorites, 141.5 the total in this one. Arizona is certainly capable of mauling California in this game. It's a question of whether the focus is there. They have Stanford next up, so it's not like they have a big opponent and a big game looming on deck. It kind of feels like Tommy Lloyd as this team rounding into March form. I mean, they have just absolutely just dummied each of their last three teams. Washington, Oregon, Oregon State. I don't want to step in front of this team right now, but it's a lot of points. California has been good enough just to get inside the number as big double-digit dogs in each of their last two games against Colorado and Utah. But here's the problem. In those two covers, they scored 46 points, and in their last four games, their high water mark is 48 points. I guarantee you, if they score 48 points tonight against Arizona, Arizona's covering the number. Okay, they're not going to hold Arizona, I don't think, to below 70. So if they score 46 tonight, I think they're fucked as far as covering as plus 19 home dogs. So that's my concern here. It's just a pass for me. It's a few too many to lay with Arizona, but I ain't stepping in front of the Wildcats. They've been revving it up as we head into March, the last few games. What do you think, Connor?
It's a ton of points. I don't want this thing. Arizona, they scored like 90, 96, 81, and their team total's at 81. So I think they could probably get over that. I don't want anything here. We'll see with Arizona. They're playing good basketball. Can this team, are they this good enough? Are they going to die? I wonder about them come the tournament. You think they're a Final Four team? Ian?
I think the offense that we've seen in the last three games from Arizona, that's the offense we saw from them early in the year when they're putting up 80 and 90 on everybody. And all they need is a little bit of defense when they do that. And because I don't think they're ever going to be a great defensive team, but if they're going to score 80s and 90s and Courtney Ramey's going to make big shots and facilitate the offense at a high level and Kirk Reese is not going to turn it over and make some shots and make good passes and decisions, and they're going to get the two bigs down low, Ballo and Tubelis dominating, then and play a little defense as well, then I think Arizona is absolutely a Final Four capable team. Hell, a national title winning team. When that happens, you get them to score 80, 90 points in the tournament. Good luck beating them.
Yeah, well, they were so good in those tournaments on neutral floors, but I know they've struggled a little bit, which teams do in conference on the road, and those games will get tight. I like the good win, even though it was at home against UCLA. They won it in a low-scoring game. I thought that was a big one for them, but they have the talent. I was just wondering what you thought.
Yeah, I mean, and keep in mind they had a nice little run in the tournament last year, and I think they were one of the teams we saw live and in person in San Antonio, the original Pubapalooza at the tournament, and Arizona was in action. I think in one of the games there, and they got knocked out. You learn to lose, but they tasted the tournament last year. And I think that's going to actually make them better this year. All those guys were part of that team. Krisa and Tubelis, and all those guys. They were on that Arizona team that went into the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 last year.
Everyone but what's his name? The first round pick.
Koloko. Yeah.
No.
Koloko. There's something. Who else got drafted to Arizona?
What's his name?
Christ. Benedict Matherin. There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Matherin. Yeah.
Benedict
They got
Matherin.
fifth or
those
sixth.
Are the two guys. Yeah. Yeah. Those are the two guys that were on the team last year that aren't anymore. Koloko and Matherin. Everyone else is pretty much back. So they learned the painful lessons, and maybe they're taking that next step this year. I think they can be a Final Four team. To answer your question, yes. I think Arizona can be a Final Four team. All right. That's the marquee games. Get your Q&A questions in right now if you've got any, and we'll go through as many of them as we can. But in the meantime, Conor Mack, still a bunch of games we did not get to. Of all those games, what do you like?
Yeah, I haven't bet this one. I think I might stay off in the end. I think his total might be too low with Monroe, but I'd still lean that way. The App State, UL Monroe, total's 130. I don't know if I get there. You touched on it, the Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky, that over that's moved up a little bit. What else was I looking at here? We talked Southern Miss. SEMO, Tennessee State, with totals really high, but I think this could even get over that. I think this game could be, again, at 160. I think that could go over there. Montana State's one of the best teams. I don't want them laying points. I do want this team, Southern Utah, back at home. I know they're laying 7 and their defense, but when they're at home, I think they win by 10 or more.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning with Southern Utah here, -7. I think they have a big game, or even look at their team total over tonight in that one. This one was tough. As much as I like Riverside, I don't know if I get there. This opened 2.5. It stayed at 2. UC Davis has played better. I think in the end, I'm going to be off there. There might be points and go over. I think that was about it. The extra board, I'm on Gardner-Webb, Radford. I got 126. I was waiting to see if I got that. I think that game's under and a good one, a tight one. So I'll take the under 126 there. Northwestern State, but I don't really want to lay it again here. It's just 3.5. Maybe I just go first half with him again on the extra board. They didn't cover last game against Lamar, full game, and I wasn't on it. But I'd be back on them maybe here a little bit. That was about it on the extra board. Some of these games like Louisiana, McNeese State, I think could get over 147. Just shit like that. Maybe New Orleans, Nichols, 149 could get over. But that was about it.
All right. There you go. Good stuff. All right. For me on the board, I like Georgia State against Old Dominion. Old Dominion on the road is a favorite. I don't buy them at all. I like Georgia State +1 at home there. La Tech, Florida International over. Rice, Florida Atlantic. I like the over there a lot, but it's gone up 4 points up to 152. But I agree with it. I think there's a lot of points there. Rice and Florida Atlantic over. UMKC in a revenge spot. I like them +2 against Western Illinois. App State money line against Monroe. Little Rock +2. And again, another revenge spot there for a home dog, and it was a competitive game in the first meeting. How about Arkansas State, a terrible team that finally won a game, the last game they played against Coastal Carolina. They played a tough game against Texas State the first meeting. Now they're in revenge here. I like them getting 7.5, and Texas State hasn't played well lately. So Arkansas State for me there +7.5 against Texas State. What else have we got here? Detroit, Milwaukee over. That shouldn't surprise you. Been on a bunch of overs with both of those teams. St. Thomas, I like them a little bit. The Tommies is a home dog against Oral Roberts. Should be a lot of points there as well. So also played it over with Oral Bob and St. Thomas. Portland State, I like them plus the points and the over against Northern Colorado. A high total in the high 150s, but there should be a boatload of points. Oakland, Green Bay, I like over in that game. I lean Troy, small bet with them -3 against South Alabama. Tennessee, Martin, Eastern Illinois, another over for me, 149.5. Pacific, Portland. I like Portland there, -5.5 against Pacific. Back home, I think they'll play better. Lean to the over there. Charlotte, UTEP. I actually like the under there, but boy, it's a low total, 121.5. UCLA, Oregon State probably is an under as well, but again, low total, 123. Southeast Missouri State, Tennessee State over for me. Southern Indiana, Tennessee Tech over for me. I like Montana, but it's gone up to -3 against Idaho State. I like Montana State. Again, I like that Bobcats team against Weber as small road favorites. Conor with Southern Utah, I like that as well. Edwardsville in the over against Lindenwood. I'm on both of those. San Diego, Santa Clara probably is a good over in that game. And that's about it for the main board. Added board, Bellarmine plus the points. Stonehill plus the points. Eastern Kentucky Queens over 157.5. Almost tempted by Stetson's +3 against Jacksonville. Fairleigh Dickinson, Long Island. I mean, Fairleigh Dickinson, it's got getting up there, but I did like laying the points with them on the road. I like North Florida to pick them against Florida Gulf Coast. North Florida, the Osprey, I think, get it done there. I like Gardner-Webb plus the points against Radford. Conor mentioned liking the under there. Conor mentioned New Orleans, Nicholls State over. I agree with that. Houston Christian and Texas A&M Commerce in that game. A lot of points, but I think there'll be a lot of points there. So over 159, even though that total's high. Austin P +5 against +6, actually, I should say, against North Alabama, I think might be worth a look. Lipscomb Central Arkansas over the total, and that's it. That's everything. So there you go. All right, Conor, we're back. Georgia State under, Noli knows. Yes, I think that is lower scoring. Old Dominion's not an over team, in my opinion, so I do think that is lower scoring. Connor's must be that damn Cox cable again, but as he's cutting in and out and freezing, we'll see if we can get Conor back on track here in just a second. But let me see if I missed anything. Yeah, Queens full game over. Yep. Liberty, no, Daryl. Actually like Bellarmine there a little bit, plus the points in that one. Montana State, yep. Tennessee Martin, nothing on the side, but I like the over. Clark, I'm going against your best bet. I hate to do that to you, my friend, but hey, someone's going to win. But I like UMKC there, +2 against Western Illinois there in that game. Morehead State, we talked about that. Yeah, no, I'm on Little Rock there, Jaquin, with that one. Little Rock Trojans there, +2 against Morehead State. So there we go. And Florida International, Louisiana, Tech, Isaiah, I like the over. Nothing on the side, just stuck to the total there. We're back. Conor's back. Well, he was back, but boy, it's just...
Conor's just donezo today. He's just donezo.
Conor is just the damn service is just there. See, now he's in and out again.
Well, don't worry, I'll be here for you.
Yeah, exactly. Just a programming announcement. It's not going to affect anything in terms of the show. Will go on, but it will go on without me on Saturday morning. I will not be here for the college basketball pub hub. It's just one of those days where we're doing one of these all day, all night Ice Guys show things for the hockey. And if I were to go 10 a.m. Eastern time to 1 a.m. Eastern time with no breaks, that's too much. You know, I got to get something in my system before we start that hockey marathon. So it'll be Dabby Cab and it'll be Conor Mack Saturday morning, and it'll be them tomorrow, of course, as usual on a Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. But I'll be back Monday on this show, and of course every Saturday the rest of the season after this Saturday I will be certainly on the air. So good stuff with that. We'll hopefully have Conor back in just a moment for best bets, but either way, hit the like button, 179 live viewers, and don't forget we got Pubapalooza 2 in a couple months. We'll run the video for that as always at the end of the show. It's right around the corner. We'll get to best bets in just a second, right after we hear from Manscaped and Southtown 101. Southtown 101, when you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke. Southtown 101, manscaped.com, promo code PubSports, 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using the promo code PubSports. JB, I do lean Kennesaw a little bit in that game. Kennesaw is off that loss against Eastern Kentucky. It was one of the bigger games. Eastern Kentucky's a top 4 or 5 team in this conference. The OVC in Kennesaw State, fell short against them, and now they're off that loss, looking to bounce back. And Jacksonville State hasn't played great necessarily this season. I think it's definitely a bounce back spot here for Kennesaw. They haven't been as good on the road, but I think still laying the 3.5, 4. I haven't bet it, but I lean in that direction with Kennesaw State. I lean to the over as well. They've been trending over the total, and they push the pace. Kennesaw State as well. There we go. So unfortunately, it's just not meant to be for Conor.
Yeah,
Mack
Cox
today.
killed him. Took him out by the knees.
Yeah, exactly. Cox just took him out, and they've taken him out a lot this year in terms of quality internet. But that's another story. Hopefully, we have quality best bets here for you on this Thursday edition of the show. So with that in mind, best bet for this Thursday card for me, I'm going to go to Arkansas State plus 7.5 against Texas State. Yeah, it's a small game on the board. It's a Sun Belt game, but this team was struggling, losing, I think, 7 or 8 in a row. They finally get a win against Coastal Carolina, and I think it gives them some positive momentum going into this game against Texas State. And Texas State, you want to lay 7.5 with them right now. They have not played well. They have not shot the ball well. Neither is Arkansas State. These aren't good offensive teams. It's probably a low-scoring, very, very defensive-minded game. But you're getting 7.5 with a team that finally got a win, a team that only lost by 3 at home against Texas State in the first meeting. And again, they were favored at home, lost the first meeting. Now they're on the road in revenge, getting underdog points. That's been a good long-term angle in college basketball. So Arkansas State, the Red Wolves, plus 7.5 against Texas State. Let's go with that for my best bet here for this Thursday college basketball slate. All right, that's a wrap. As you can see, we'll have to end the show without our guy, Conor Mack. But thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. And I'll be back on with Jimmy the Bag tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time, NHL and college basketball. We will go through all the games for the Friday slate on that show. Thanks to everyone for joining us. For Conor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Friday for another edition. It'll be Cab and Conor, his internet willing, surviving, hopefully, for the show tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Conor and Cab tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern for the College Basketball Net Profit Show right here on Pub Sports Radio.
Palooza 2 on the horizon. We're going to have live shows popping off in the Southbound 101. We're going to have a poker tournament, a par 3 golf tournament, UFC San Antonio on the Saturday night. A lot of excitement. Palooza 2, baby.